All right, welcome back to the Real Estate Locker Room Show, folks. I'm your host, John Carney, and thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of the podcast. All you return listeners out there, I truly am grateful that you're keeping me going and keeping the show going. I love getting feedback from you, and we've got another great episode heading your way with Mr. Phillip Vincent from St. Louis, Missouri. If you are new to the show, you're just stumbling across us on your preferred podcasting platform because we're everywhere. Welcome to the show. We're going to explore the intersection of competitive sports and competitive real estate, or competitive business. Real estate's a business, and I choose to look at it as a sport. All right, so the goal here is to deliver you some actionable advice. We're going to get some today from Mr. Vincent, and that's going to hopefully help you raise the bar in your real estate business. So this is episode number 102, and welcome to the show, Phillip.
Thank you, John. Thank you for having me on. Two of my favorite subjects are real estate and sports, so I'm glad to be here.
I know you came prepared.
Yeah, my throwback.
Yeah, fantastic. All right. Well, we're talking about it like any good athlete. Let's stretch out a little bit and get the conversation going and engage the brain.
Sure.
Get to know each other a little bit. Growing up as a kid, do you have a sports hero, and what sports did you play?
Sure. Being 6'3", 300, I was trying to play every sport, right? My dad always said you can't teach height, and so I guess genetically I was always blessed with size. And so being from St. Louis, if you don't say your favorite sport's baseball, there's probably something wrong with you, right? It's built into us from an early age that we are Cardinal fans. And when I think about sports in general, I've been lucky enough to see multiple World Series victories, Super Bowl victories, and now a NHL playoff Stanley Cup here in St. Louis. And so for me, now currently at 42 years of age, the sports that I play are mainly, I call them games with spite. And what I mean by that is your tennis, pickleball, and badminton. So I like to have a racket in my hand, and I like to get a little cardio without thinking I'm doing cardio. So that's kind of what my sports life looks like today.
Gotcha. Do you have any kids?
I have two sons. They just turned 6 and 8. So two young boys that I now with COVID and their homeschooling, I am officially the PE teacher of my two young sons. So we wake up and we do drills and we do, we throw the ball around, shoot hoops. I'm officially a PE teacher in a real estate investor now.
Yeah, one of my new sports is picking up after the kids, but they're both, we got the training wheels off during COVID for the 4.5-year-old. So we're almost at 5 and 7. So just a little bit behind you with the 2-year split, but it's
a fun age though, by the way, John. I mean, we're getting as dads that, they're getting into the fun stuff with us, like the real conversations, the interaction, the sports, so you're right there with me.
Yeah, it's fun. This summer they've got golf clubs, and that we're more leaning more towards, we'll say, wheels like bikes and skateboards and skis and stuff. But I mean, they're climbing trees, and then once they figure out how to get up there, they're going higher, they're swinging around, and it's like, man, remember to hold on, right? If you're going to go up there, please don't fall down. Yep. So that's a lot of fun. I think watching the human movement of the children develop. We're way off topic, but I guess we're all born a little athlete, and it's pretty cool.
Yeah, and I don't think it's off topic at all. I think right now we see what's going on in the world with that C word we don't like to talk about that's ever out there, is that one good thing is that I'm getting to spend more time with my family than if they were in regular school. So I'm taking it as a once in a lifetime. They're only little ones. I'm gonna, of course they drive you crazy. They're your kids, right? But at least I'm getting to spend more time with them when they're young. Because I look at kids as like a bottle rocket, right? They're off and they're gone and they're adults, right? You get them for a very short time. And so most things in life, I try to see the best of everything that I can.
Well, that is true. I mean, our kids just went back to school. They're in a Montessori school.
Congrats.
This is their second week. My wife, there was a lot of meetings and a lot of parent meetings and a lot of groups and a lot of friction, and we're here now. And hey, we know it's one of those, it's an awkward position to be in because it could go away. right? We're taking everyone's temperature. I do really bad with climate change and allergies. So it's like, that's a sniffle. And I believe that based on my behavior, it's allergies. I haven't been going out to,
Sure.
big groups of people and stuff, but so we call Saturday and Sunday family day. And the conversation this morning is they should know their days of the week. Is it family day and are you going to work? And it's like, yeah, we got a couple more days, but we're going to have a great weekend and we're going to ride bikes and get dirty and it's going to be awesome.
That's right. That's what the kids should do. Yeah.
Cool. So St. Louis, let's talk about, so you're a big St. Louis sports fan.
Sure.
You were built to play them all. What did you land on?
Baseball. It's baseball always.
It's baseball.
Gotcha. The big first baseman, the guy who pulls way too much and can't, hit it to the opposite field to save his life, no matter how hard he tries. I was built for the American League, even though I'm a National League fan,
So you being a Cleveland fan and kind of being in high school and college in the 90s, Jim Thome was always my guy.
What a stud, yeah. He hit almost 600 home runs, right?
Yeah, like on the field, off the field, even like still does Cleveland sports, baseball, TV, and I mean, what a good guy. Yeah. And just a big guy too. I'm 5'8".
Probably he's probably one of the most underrated sluggers ever, right? Hey, you know what? In baseball though, you got to look at Trout and go, the height doesn't matter, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, that's an exciting position. And so what'd you learn on first base that took you into the real estate business?
That's a great question. Probably my love of sports, came from playing with family, right? And so all of my family were in the new construction business. They were framers, and they framed for some of the biggest builders here in St. Louis. I mean, biggest not as volume, but as far as like custom homes, expensive. And I remember my cousin telling me one time, this was about the year 1999, that he knew of a builder that was going to sell he had $300,000 in the land and $700,000 in the house. That was $1 million. He was going to sell it for 1.4. And then the neighbor across the street listed his old house for 1.4. And he said, well, if that guy thinks his is worth 1.4, mine should be worth 1.8. And so he listed it for 1.8 and he made $800,000 on the deal. And my cousin looked at me and says, wouldn't you hate that? And I said, hate what? He goes, paying taxes on making $800,000. And I go, no, that's exactly the kind of problems I'm looking for. And it just kind of shows you how like people's brains, like he looked at that as a problem, having to pay taxes on making $800,000. And I just found that always funny. And like, I think with life, perception is a big deal. I've always wanted to grow, and we'll talk about today, my curiosity of finding the perfect real estate deal, right? I'm a single family guy. I used to do new construction, but it didn't fit my personality. And it's made me graduate all the way back into wholesaling, and so I've kind of done this business backwards, where a lot of people, the people listening today might be thinking about starting out, and everybody I talk to that wants to start out wants to start wholesaling. And then they're going to get into rentals and then flips and then maybe development. What I'm trying to tell you is that wholesaling and rehabbing is probably a really good place just to be. You might not need to graduate past that. So anybody getting started today, I always say you got to break eggs to make omelets, right? So do not have analysis paralysis, because in the great business of real estate, even if you only make $5,000 on a deal and you thought you were going to make 50, you got paid for that education, right? What businesses are out there where you get paid to be educated? And that's what real estate will do for you.
Yeah, it's really, we, in order to curb my wife's Amazon habit, and I don't believe that I'm the only person that's had that, we actually, it landed in our lap and we said yes. And I won't go into the story, but we're about to turn a duplex into a single family home in a pretty hot area. It's just, my broker usually takes these on herself. And couldn't because of a conflict of interest, and said there'll be, multiple offers by the end of the day if you don't do something now. And, in our market, I want to get back to what you do, but it's really interesting because we're building our team. I do multifamily stuff, and we're going to do this as a project. And I believe there's enough meat on the bone that we're not going to lose money. And I'm not going to get wowed by the numbers because I'm a little bit older but now than I was, when I was 20. But this is about building the team. and everybody in this business, which she's learning, is really open to helping everybody be successful in this business. And it's not competitive against, you know, your buddy Joe who's flipping or fixing and flipping or building a portfolio. It's such a collaboration that it's really exciting. So like I didn't mean to jump in there. So you're kind of done it all, and you're landing back into deal making. You're a deal junkie.
That's what solving the problem. And, you know, the scarcity mindset, which is what I think you're talking about there with newbies, you can almost tell how long they've been in the business when they have that scarcity mindset. And when you've done some deals and you've got some traction, that kind of hopefully goes away, where you're not all about in it for me. And I think with what your broker was talking about there, like the collaborative nature comes from being confident in yourself and doing it. And so I hope every newbie gets some deals going so they can get that confidence, so they can get to that point where they have an abundance mentality instead of a scarcity mindset.
It's a huge thing. So what like talk about Mom's House, because that's sort of where you are today, right?
Yeah. We've been in real estate for 22 years, but back in 2011, I stumbled across what I found to be the best real estate lead source I've ever found for single family homes. And that is the adult children. Let's say John and Phillip are brothers, and we're going to move our mom into senior living. That exact moment is the moment we're most likely going to need to liquidate the house to pay for care. And so what I've done since 2011 is I've worked in, as much as I'm in the real estate world, I'm really in the senior living world as well, to build relationships with stakeholders that are having that conversation with the families at the exact right time. So if you and I are going to move mom into senior living, do we move mom near you in Cleveland? Do we move mom near me in St. Louis? Do we leave her in Chicago where she lives? What level of care does mom need? You know, there's 100 questions that we don't know is the answer, right? We're not prepared. And it's literally, John, it's literally called crisis management. And why it's called that is normally what happens in a stereotypical story is that dad passed away 8 years ago. Mom's been doing the best she can on a fixed income. And something happened where she fell again. Not fell once, they fell again. And this time she had to have a hip surgery. And she's in rehab and she's going to be okay. But the doctor comes in and tells us, hey, guys, mom can't move back home. And we look at each other, we're like, what? We just thought she fell down and that, right? Now, what do you mean she can't move back home? You know, our rock, the person that's taken care of us our whole lives, our mother, really one of the most important people ever in anyone's life is their mother, right? Now we're helping for that first time make decisions for mom or help her get to that, which, by the way, the number one thing about Mom's House is where's mom going to get the best care? And inside of that, there's decisions that have to be made very quickly, usually about the house and the stuff. And so Mom's House is a nationwide network of trusted investors. I want to emphasize that word trusted. And when people start off, and it's so true, you can make money in real estate without money. That's a true statement, right? But what my fear is that the people that their only way to dispose of a property is wholesaling, if that's their only way to sell it, that person's probably not right for the Mom's House brand. And the reason why is all I need people to do, John, is to do what they say. And for some, it's a hard thing. Everybody's listening probably goes to like real estate networking events. And when I say, if you've ever been to a networking, like a RIA group, have you ever seen anybody put up a picture of their check at the real estate networking groups? Have you ever seen that, John? Like on Facebook?
I've seen that online.
Okay, yeah. Right. So people are showing their checks, right? And they're proud of them. They're showing
I like direct deposit.
No, I know, but in this business, I'm getting to a generality that in real estate, they brag about their checks. I've been networking in senior living since 2011. I've not seen one picture or a size of someone's check yet. And what I'm speaking to there is the hugs and kisses and the warm, you spoke about collaboration. The senior living industry is super collaborative in trying to help those families once they trust you. And so what I'm trying to do is get a higher level of people that care about others and people with empathy, because you're helping that adult child, that family, those adult children with their mother in one of the hardest times of their lives. It's really, really a stressful time, but it's a giant growing part of the market. And what I do is not sexy, right? We're talking about seniors and end of life care, but it's recession proof, because in a good economy or a bad economy, people still get old and they still need that care. And in the United States, a crazy stat is that 75% of all Americans over the age of 65 will live in some sort of assisted care before they pass away, which tells me they're going to need to sell that house way, way, way before they pass away. So probate leads are good as far as real estate investors. These are the industry's kind of called what I do is like a pre-probate situation. And so the market is gigantic and there's plenty of pie. We talked about the abundance. Like I don't look at competition out there. I'm trying to help as many people as I can. There's plenty of pie for all of us.
What I would like you to elaborate on, because I understand it, but like I don't know that everybody understands, so probate leads and wholesaling in renting and rehab. I mean, there's a lot of different terminology, and if someone's just tuning in, I suppose what you're saying is like what you're doing is you're helping family. That families, when a senior parent, one or both have to move out of the house, and it falls back to the family to make a decision how to move the house. That's right. I'm going to assume from what I've seen over the course of my decade doing similar things that these houses aren't always market ready. It's usually a lot of stuff. They're dated and they need work. So need someone in order to get cash now. You're sort of making a deal with an investor whose intention is to go in, invest time, money, and energy into making that house better, and either A, hold it for a portfolio and rent it out, or B, sell it for a gain and move on. However, not all investors are built the same, right? So you've got a turn and burn mentality where it might just be about making cash, but you also have other investors that are like yourself who are solving a problem and have built a brand around that. Correct?
That's perfect, John. That's exactly right what you said.
And so, like, I think in order for anyone listening to fully understand it, like, I mean, you are solving a big problem, but and it's got benefits. Talk a little bit about the benefits for the families you help. The real estate is sort of, I think people get that and talk about it at the end. But I mean, now you have an opportunity that's landed in your lap, but only because you're solving a bigger, more important problem for somebody.
No doubt. The benefits to the family are great. So when you're in crisis care for mom, and you've got your brother living on the West Coast and your other brother on the East Coast, and you're in the Midwest or wherever you are, I mean, the story, it makes sense. Most children on average live about 400 miles away from their parents. So it's hard for me to do a rehab on the other side of St. Louis, let alone 400 miles away. And so I compare myself a lot to realtors. The senior living industry has been using realtors because, like most things, they think that's the way you're supposed to sell a house. So the realtor walks in, they make my life really easy. The realtor walks in and says, clean this place out. Well, as you said before, I'm not buying houses from 28-year-olds that lived there for 2 years. I'm buying houses from 82-year-olds that have lived there for 50 years. And that house, that was their forever house. I take great pride in buying someone's forever house, right? That's the house where the basement has VHS tapes. It has workout equipment that's still in perfect condition. It has the stuff from the one brother's divorce that, it's like everything just keeps piling up. Life keeps happening. You've heard the term hoarders, right? I don't like that word hoarders. If I like the person, I call them an aggressive collector. They're an aggressive collector. And so it's life, and we talk about, I'm not in the transaction business as much as I am in the people business. So I build relationships in the senior living world. And so I solve the problems of the senior living industry, which in turn solves the problems of the adult children helping mom move in. You said you do multifamily, so I love that example. If you have an apartment building with 100 units in it, and it's a senior living community, your average tenant only stays for 28 months in the senior living world. So you have this revolving door of they've either passed away or they've moved on to the next level of care that you might not have at that building. And so what I do is I add on front end days, weeks, months onto the front end to where they can get mom care quicker. And so it makes the senior living industry more profitable, and it takes the burden off the families. And so everybody wants to do right by their mother, and they should. And so I always say I deal with the most responsible child, and that's the person I help the most. And when I say child, I've actually had the oldest, most responsible child I've ever helped was 80. he was helping his 98-year-old mother-in-law to sell her house. So when I say child, this is really, 40s to 70s is the age of who I'm talking about here. They are under a gigantic burden. And I'll tell you all the different ways they're being pulled. They just found out their mom has to move into senior living. They're still taking their mom to hospital visits, doctor's visits, to try to help with that. They don't know where. They're meeting with placement agents. They meet with the finance director who tells them how much it costs. They're trying to figure out how they're going to pay for it. They're getting input from their siblings that live all across the country who all have varied opinions. And they all think, oh, you're crazy. Mom's not as bad as you say she is, right? Because they're not there. They're physically not there. And then there's this resentment. Plus, you got to remember that that adult child still has a life. They might be 50-year-old that's married, they still have kids and families and mortgages and jobs. And I was on a podcast yesterday, and the gentleman that was interviewing me literally just went through this with his wife's grandmother because her parents had passed away. So it fell on the granddaughter to do this. And he said it was a 30-hour-a-week job for about 3 months to get her placed. And who has that kind of time, John? And so that's going to fall on one person. And so when I always say I get to wear a cape, I'm not the one that said mom has to move into senior living. I'm not the one that says the place that we picked out is $8,800 a month and how the heck are we going to pay for it? I'm the guy that comes in and says, you don't need to clean this place out. I want you to take your heirlooms and anything of value, leave everything else. You don't have to clean it. You don't have to rehab it. Like the realtor said, here's my list of demands to get it ready for the market. Because the market's good, right? Here's what I want you to do to get a market ready. Imagine, the market's good today. I've lived, 22 years. I've been through the ups and downs. The market's good today. That's good for selling. But how hard does it make it to get competent contractors to get that house ready for the market?
Yeah.
If you're the layperson.
I'm just thinking of cleaning it's one, getting everything out. It's one thing. Now you got to find an electrician. That's going to take you 6 weeks. Right?
Yes.
I mean,
yes.
Assuming that or a painter that knows what he's doing. I mean, there is such a shortage everywhere of skilled, reliable tradespeople that, I'll go back to wholesaling. If you're going to get into rehabbing, build your team because they're out there, but you're going to need to find someone to help you do that. But I like what you're doing. And before I forget, I want you to put out to your network that I'd like a first look at all BMX bikes from the 80s era.
Ooh, is that like Huffy? Like what's the brands? What's the brands you like?
GTs and Redlines. I don't know. I got little kids and they're on their bikes now. And my bike was stolen. I had a Redline 500A. It was stolen from the mall. I was 17. I could have driven there, but I chose to ride my bike to go play arcade games, right? You might remember that.
Oh, yeah. Ours was called Tilt, right? They had all the games in there at the mall.
Yeah. Ours was called Aladdin's Castle. Someone cut my lock, and that was it. But I found one that's in the same bike I had. It was an 83. I got it off the internet from California. It needs a lot of work. So I think I'm going into the side hustle of rehabbing bikes.
I love it.
And I'm spending all my time on my downtime on my phone on Facebook. I only look at Facebook now to shop, and I'm on every BMX site. So totally different thing. But I would imagine you guys find some cool
John,
stuff.
we can find you a bike. I mean, that kind of stuff is in every house that I buy. Because now what I've noticed, I've been doing this long enough now, it used to be a lot of kids of the 70s, and I'm starting to see a lot of kids of the 80s just because it's gone on now. Yeah. And so we can find you that. Yeah, these houses are, yes. We'll put that out there to the world. We'll find you the right way.
All right. So it's an awesome way. I mean, I like the service. I like the concept that you stumbled onto it. So you have a team of people that'll come in and do the estate sale and all of that. And so that's one.
To trash. Well, every family has everybody has their heirlooms and then their stuff and then trash, right? Yeah. I mean, your taxes from 1973 are just trash. I'm sorry, right? The National Geographics are usually just trash. And in St. Louis, this is what they tell me, the industry tells me, most estates, all the stuff sells for under $5,000. And it almost cost about $5,000 to get rid of it all. So really their stuff is almost a break even. It's not a positive, right? Everybody thinks their stuff's worth $1 million, but it isn't. And so I laugh in my training. I always talk about, Dad paid $1,800 for that piano. What is it worth?
Yeah.
I love it. And I say, I don't know what your piano's worth, but I do know there's 40 of them on Craigslist right now for free. So I don't know what your piano, and like pool tables, right? And just like anything, you know, and by the way, it's really hard to get rid of stuff. Let's talk about that for a second. Mom's going from a 2,000 square foot house with a basement to a 12 by 12 room. She has 99% too much stuff now. And so why it takes so long to get rid of this stuff is all the kids need to book their flights to come in from wherever they live. The grandkids come in to take their heirlooms, you know, their tchotchkes, their things they want to remember about grandma, which is what should happen. But what happens is resentment, because that 20-year-old, 25-year-old moving into an apartment, they don't want grandma's old bedroom set. They would much rather go to IKEA and buy something new and trendy. They don't want grandma's china. They don't even own a hutch, and you can't put china in a dishwasher, right? Like, they don't want it anymore. And so even getting rid of the stuff sometimes builds resentment inside a family. I've seen families that get along great fight. That's how traumatic this whole situation is. And that's why that loving care, like, I've got a ton of great tools to help people diffuse that, to help that most responsible child get through this situation. Because when I buy their house sometimes, John, I see their shoulders lift, like, oh, I don't have to come back, you know, like when they know it's over, right? They know they've got somebody they can trust, and they can go, they're focused right back to taking care of mom, which is what's important, right? I always say, if I can make the adult children's lives easier, I'm doing my job.
So can I, it's really neat. What, can you go back to, so you started this in this kind of first concept, and the first few transactions started 9-10 years ago?
2011. Yes, sir.
And then,
yeah, and so what I said to myself is, you know, we had bought like 66 houses that year, and we were like, what was the similar story about all this? And so we kind of said, hey, it's kind of right around when this is happening. And I said, is anybody going right to the senior living community and saying, hey, I buy houses? And, you know, with my personality, that's what I did. And the next day I just went in and say, hey, I buy houses. And here's the problem. It's like a hospital there. The feeling is very not warm. It's like, it's, you know, they want to be warm in the front, but we're still talking about life and death. And so when you show up, when somebody listens to this podcast, they're going to be driving down the street and see a new senior living community going up, and they're going to say, Phil said I should go talk to those people, right? And I'm telling you right now, that's not how it's done. When you walk in there, they want to put you in the investor box or the realtor box, and both of those are not what you want. The investor box sometimes is looked at as a person that's going to take advantage of grandma, which is never good. And by the way, the senior world is a class of people that do get taken advantage of a lot, so they should have scrutiny against who they refer to, right? They should protect those people. You have to know how to build trust with the industry, so that way they give a warm referral to guys like me. The second thing is realtors. When people hear you're a realtor, like some people say it, I'm an investor and a realtor. If they put you in the realtor box, their crocodile brain turns off, because they know what a realtor is. They probably already work with a realtor, and they don't need you. You've turned their brain off completely. You haven't solved any problem. You aren't different. You aren't new. And what I do is I teach a way to solve a problem that faces that person that you're sitting across from, that fixes their life. And I can show, there's about 8 different stakeholders. You want me to go through them, the people that I work with?
Yeah, I'd love, to learn more. And
Sure.
Please do. Because that's probably, hopefully there's someone out there that'll connect with you.
Sure.
It'll be the start of a beautiful partnership. And there'll probably be some other people that'll listen to this and say, that's not my jam. And I think
honestly, it's not for everybody. If you're transactional and don't want to build relationships, then it's not right for everybody. And so in the senior living world, there's hundreds of people that you'll meet, but only about 8 to 10 of them that I've found so far are having the conversation at the exact right time. And that would be the proprietor of the senior living community, the director of the senior living community, the finance director of the senior living community, the marketing person of the senior living community, the social worker. Then there's somebody called a placement agent. A placement agent is like a real estate agent for the senior living world. So if me and you were brothers again, and we didn't know where to take mom, we would call a placement agent to help us understand our options and help us understand where mom needs to move based on demographic, geographic, her care level that we have. We're not qualified for that at all. Placement agents are phenomenal. Then you've got people that do what's called aid and attendance benefits. And those people are a lot of times financial planners. They're a phenomenal source for me. Also, you have attorneys that specialize in elder care law. So not a person that does divorces or personal injury. They usually specialize in elder care. All of those different stakeholders are having the conversation, and they're a authority, or what should I say? They're a trusted person in the adult children's life. So imagine when they refer to Phillip, how great that lead is. I always say, like, everybody's starting off, so you probably have a lot of guys that do like direct mail, like postcards. The problem right now is like 38 guys are doing those same postcards. So how do you stand out in today's real estate investor world? Imagine the postman coming down and saying, hey, call Phillip, don't call these other 37 people. Like that vote of confidence, like this is the trusted guy, right? Well, way more important than the mailman is the person that's helping us with our mother's end-of-life care. When we trust that person and that person refers to me, the investor, it's half your job is done, John. Like you said, the real estate's almost the easy part. I'm looking for three things in a lead for real estate. I'm looking for a person that needs to sell versus wants to sell. I'm looking for a house that has equity, and I'm looking for a house that I can add value to. You know, they might have bought the house in 1973, and mom got her new kitchen in 1991, but now in 2020, 21, you know, here we are. It needs another rehab again. It needs to be updated again. And so we as investors create our value with houses that need to be updated. And that's what I specialize in.
Absolutely. And so I suppose your big point of difference is it's not just, you don't just receive a lead and make a phone call and work a deal. It's way more intimate and involved in that. But I would imagine that you have your system in your network of facilitators that can provide the answers to all the other questions that we'll call the designated adult child. Is that the word you use? The designated
most responsible child. Yeah, the power of attorney. There's a bunch of different names.
Yeah.
So I mean, that mom and dad put in charge when they knew this was going to happen. And so, you know, in St. Louis, there's a lot of families that have 6 kids. So I'm hopefully dealing with the most competent one. I don't know if I am, but you know, usually I'm not getting the knucklehead unless there's only one kid. You know, that happens.
The kids that studied and got good grades.
That's right. And I've noticed too, this is a stereotype, but in the stereotype there's some truth. I've seen a lot of the older generation put their daughters in charge of the healthcare and their sons in charge of the finance. So sometimes you got to deal with a daughter and a brother, or you know, sister and a brother, because they split those duties, even though they're kind of melded together with what we're doing here. So that's just what I've seen in my 10 years with this.
I gotcha. So where are you now? And talk a little bit about, you know, so did you say you've got this model that you have partnerships around the country?
I do, and we're growing it. There's about 310 cities that we think are big enough to have the Mom's House model in it. And I think we're at like 40 right now. We started in January, and something called COVID happened. I don't know if you guys have heard of that one yet, back in March. And it kind of slowed us down a little bit. But here we are back on the horse, and I'm back out on the podcast and trying to find, you know, put it out to the world that we're looking for good investors.
So what like talk a little, we'll get all the links to you, and we'll wrap up the show with where people find you. So be patient, people.
Yeah.
But, you know, talk a little bit about the process, about the type of investor that you're looking for, you know, to partner with. And, you know, I'm in Cleveland, so we'll just use Cleveland as an example.
Sure.
Or Denver or Miami, you know, any city in the USA.
Yeah. What does that person look like? In my training, I don't talk at all about how to write a contract. And I don't talk about what color kitchen cabinets to put in a rehab. And I don't talk about how to get hard money. Usually the people I work with are already real estate investors. And they're already, I think people that understand me the best are the ones that are already spending money on bad marketing. Like from, you know, your yellow bandit signs to the new hot thing seems to be cold calling and text messaging. It seems to be the new hot thing in real estate marketing. You've got your tried and true direct mail, and the bigger boys usually do the pay-per-click, right? So to understand how valuable a lead is, it usually takes you spending a lot of money on bad leads to kind of understand the difference of what I call the spray and pray model to get your phone to ring versus the going out and building relationships. And so I kind of liken what I do is I want to teach your listeners how to build oil wells that sit there and pump new appointments. Because as long as they're in senior living, they are constantly working with families in this exact situation. And so I don't need somebody that does, you know, 20 deals a year to be part of this. They need to have the right mindset of help. And if you can, put the families first, the money's almost the easy part of real estate. It's kind of built into our model. We buy at a discount, we create our value. When we rehab, we put them on the market and sell. And so everybody right now is trying to stand out. It's really hard as an investor to stand out because the market has been good for so long that there's more investors than I've ever seen in my life. Every one of them ask me, how do I stand out in this crowded market? And so with working with the senior living stakeholders, it will make you stand out. Nobody's really talking about it. And so I'm kind of excited to talk to your listeners because this is something new. It's not just a new or an old new spin on something old. This is really something that's been very good for me since 2011.
Awesome. Well, that's a great story, Phillip. Let's jump into sort of a few things that I ask everybody because
Sure.
You're a hard charging entrepreneur. And I have found that success leaves clues by doing, now we're into your episode 102 and I love the learning. And one of the things that I've learned is, I just learned recently, not everyone reads books, they listen to books. So books, is there a book that you feel everyone who's in the real estate game ought to pick up and have on their shelf?
Yeah. There's a book, I won't even call it a real estate book. It's called The Big Rich. And it's about the 4 families in Texas that really kind of created the oil industry as we know it. Huh. And The Big Rich is a phenomenal book. It's a book about life. It's a book about, it ends up being a little bit, I'm not political, but it ends up being how once you make all that money, you become political. Like it's, how our world is shaped today, from the early 1900s, late 1800s, how the oil industry has weaved itself into our lives. Why I said that book for you guys to listen to is because, and COVID has just proven that true again. The winners and losers of life, sometimes no one is smarter than anyone else, but the people that take the chances and the risks are either greatly rewarded or they're made to look like a fool. But both of those people took the chance and tried to do that. And I've noticed that even the ones that have the big failures get right back up and go do it again, and then they have that success. And so taking action is the point. And the world might make you look really smart or really dumb, depending on what kind of things, this world's so volatile right now that I'll give you an example. I've got a buddy that sells chicken strips to gas stations. Well, what happened in March of this year to about July? No one went to restaurants. They only went to gas stations. So he's had the most amazing 2020, yet, my other friends in restaurant are out of business, right? Is he smarter because he was in the chicken strip business than my other friends that had, hotels or something? No, obviously not. The work, my point is that you have to take action, try to become an expert in everything you do, but learning on the job is better than having analysis paralysis and reading and never do anything. You need to learn on the site by taking action.
Yeah. Jump off the cliff.
Yep.
I like it. It's The Big Rich. Obviously, I'll have that written down. It'll be on the website with the link and everything. But at the beginning of COVID, I said, oh, yeah, we're at home now, right? Back in March. It seems like years ago, back in March. The first series that we looked up on Amazon from the History Channel was The Men Who Built America. Have you seen that?
Oh, I'm embarrassed to say how many times I've seen that. I love those shows.
That led into, man, these guys drink a lot of straight whiskey. I'm going to start drinking straight whiskey. And that didn't last long. But, that all went away because the next thing that we that we got into was Tiger King. But
right after that,
I feel like you weren't really having the same April as everybody else unless you got his little Tiger King
That's
action.
True, yeah. I have a buddy that flew his private jet to go see that sanctuary. I thought that is the most fabulous Hoosier thing I've ever heard in my life. That's amazing. It's an amazing thing.
That is fantastic. That's a fantastic story. So, one thing we're always looking for along the line, success leaves clues. Do you have a pro tip, something that you can leave the audience with that works for you and that you want to keep repeating?
Yeah. Understanding leverage. People don't understand their leverage. With real estate, you can control by contract. And until you know how to figure your ARV or your after repair value and have a competent way to run your rehab numbers, you cannot, it's really hard to be in this business if you don't know those two things. Almost every new person, when they're a newbie and they say, it's a $30,000 rehab, it's a $30,000 rehab. When I pull up, I see the driveway, the retaining wall, and the roof all need to be done. And I go, I've spent 30 grand and I haven't even gotten out of the car yet, right? They just don't know their numbers. And so if you're going to take this seriously, find someone in your area that's already doing this and go with them and work with them, even do it for free, because you'll learn on the job very quickly.
Yeah, that's great advice. And I mean, if you're taking on a big project, architects, and engineers and other people, if you know any of them, get their eyes on it before I don't know, not something that everyone talks about. All right, well, that's cool. Do you have a habit or a daily ritual or something that helps keep you focused when you're when you go out of stay at home teacher mode into
when I get out to the public? What keeps me motivated? I don't work that many hours. Shh, don't tell anybody. When people brag that they work 80 hours a week, I say, I feel sorry for you. I work way less than most CEOs that I know hours wise. And so I'm really, really big on creating the life that I want right now. I'm a big proponent of a guy named Sean McCloskey that teaches you build the life you want and then build the business around that. And everyone I know does it the opposite way. And so when I go out, I need to make thousands of dollars an hour to go out as little as I do to have the lifestyle that I want. And so real estate is one of those things, guys, that can do that for you. You can sit in a cubicle and make 29 grand a year, and you can make 50 grand on one wholesale deal in real estate. And so you get to pick how you're going to spend your time. And I'm telling you that there's plenty of pie for everybody, and real estate is an amazing business to be in for lots of reasons. Yeah,
it's pretty cool. And there's people like Phillip out there, right in your neighborhood, right, putting together groups on Facebook and on Meetup that you just got to show up and say hi. I think that I agree with that for sure. All right, cool. Is there what did we miss? We've covered it. The success, the mom's house, the value add, the opportunity, what you're looking for. How do people find you and connect with you if they're listening to this and they want to learn more about, being a mom's house representative in their city?
Momshouse.com. I like domain names that my 8-year-old can spell. So it's momshouse.com. That's where to find me. And I'm sure you can find things. I mean, if you search my name on Google, I'm sure you'll find things, but I think Mom's House is the best place to start. It's, talks about the senior living industry. If you're looking for like rehabbing tips, that's not where you're going to find it. We specialize in helping the senior living industry. And when you dive deep into it, you understand how phenomenal it is for the real estate industry. But people do it wrong. And so I want to help you not have the learning curve that I had that took me 8 years to figure out. And so that's what I do there.
That's awesome. Perfect. There you have it, folks. I really do hope you picked up some actionable advice from our guest, Phillip Vincent, today, and in his business, Mom's House. We'll have all the links so that you can find Mom's House and the Big Rich and some other useful items that Phillip's put up or given us today up on our show notes. So make sure to check out the Real Estate Locker Room Show on iTunes. We're everywhere. Google Play, iHeartRadio, Spotify. You're carrying it around in your pocket, and you're listening to us, so you know where it is. But I'd be grateful if you'd leave us a review so that other like-minded real estate investors just like you are able to connect with the show and hopefully have some fun talking about sports and real estate. The podcast, the show notes for the post-game show are going to be up on my website. That's johncarneyonline.com /episode 102. And while you're there, you can drop your name and email address into our opt-in. And occasionally, and I mean very occasionally, we send something out that we find super useful or insightful about investing in real estate and other places to find great content. So remember to stay focused on your goals, have fun, and stay in the game. I'm your host, John Carney, and until next time, work hard, play hard, raise the bar. And man, thanks for spending some time with us in the locker room today, Phillip.
Congratulations on getting to that 100th episode, too. That's a big deal. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.